Yo, what's going on, man? We are back for another episode of Southern Hospitality, where me and my sister talk about the Black millennial experience in America. I'm your co-host, Landon Moss.
And I'm Gabby Moss, and today we're going to be talking about communication, creating space for people, the different forms of miscommunication, social media's influence on communication,
Yep.
and then we're going to dive into boundaries,
Mm.
setting them, respecting them, recovering after you cross them, and why we struggle with setting boundaries.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, how you doing today?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. I have no complaints. No
Yeah.
complaints. How you doing?
I'm cool, man. Besides, California been on fire lately, so it's been kind of
Literally.
smoky.
Yeah.
Like literally, I looked at the when I look at the weather report, it usually says like sunny or something. It said smoke.
Unsafe. Oh, what?
No, it says smoke,
What?
and then obviously it says the unhealthy air quality.
Oh my
Let me see.
gosh.
Let me see if it says it right now. But yeah, it literally just says smoke, and then it's just clouds.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I've never seen that.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
remember, when you showed me on the.
Well, it just says unhealthy air quality right now. It doesn't say the smoke, but usually it says smoke.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember when you showed it to me, it like everything was orange.
Yeah. It was
That's
weird because it
wild.
was kind of cool, but it was like this isn't safe.
Yeah, at all.
You know.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Dang. Humans
But
is
anyways, man,
fucking
enough
shit
about
up.
that. What's one thing that you learned recently?
One thing that I've learned. So recently I've been doing, well, let me preface it first. I've been watching, I watched Lisa Nichols. She's like a motivational slash transformational speaker, which I've noticed there's a common theme among all her videos. She tells the same story, but it's a good story. And so she always talks about this one period in her life where she had been clinically diagnosed with, she had been diagnosed with
Over there making beats. I almost started rapping. It's vomit on the sweat already. I'm guessing you meant to say diagnosed with clinical depression.
Yes.
Okay.
What's going on in my brain? Okay. Clinical you said it. And so she said before she would take the pill, she didn't want to take the medicine. She asked the doctor, like, can I come back in 30 days and we'll follow up, whatever. Say yeah. So what she did was she went home and she created 3 lists. The first list was an affirmation list, and she started with writing down I am statements. I am powerful. I am this. The next list was I forgive you for. So she wrote down everything she forgave herself. She wanted to forgive herself for. The third list was I commit to you. And so every day she would say these same 3 lists, and then 30 days later when she came back, a completely different person. It sounds when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, whatever. But I tried it, and I will say it definitely does work. It definitely does work. If we think about how our brains already operate, a lot of that chatter in our brains is the negative talk that we've heard over the years just repeating itself.
Yeah.
And so the power with those 3 lists is the first one is you recognizing and proclaiming who you are, who you believe yourself to be. The second list, that I forgive you, is you accepting who you've been and the mistakes that you've made. And then the third list, that I commit to you, is who you will be in the future and the steps that you're going to take to become that person. And so continually repeating that to yourself, after a while your brain starts to accept these as truths. And that was one thing with this book that I'm reading here that I told you about earlier.
And for the people that can't see it, what's it called?
It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you just judge the book by its cover, you think it's all about money, but he barely talks about money in this book. It's more so about really just the power of your mind and understanding these certain principles. So it's based off of the study that he did off of like 100 of these different types of millionaires, billionaires, and just the common theme around all of them. And one point that I wanted to make in particular that he says is he talks about he talks about the concept of self-suggestion. And then I'll just read it. He says, "It is a well-known fact that one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself, whether the statement be true or false. If a man repeats a lie over and over, he will eventually accept the lie as truth. Moreover, he will believe it to be the truth. Every man is what he is because of the dominating thoughts which he permits to occupy his mind. He talks a little like Ode, but um, and that's one thing that I'm starting to realize. A lot of the affirmations that I'm repeating to myself, like eventually you start to act as if they're already true. Like one thing that I repeat to myself is I am disciplined because discipline is the highest form of self-care, and I love myself. And so when I first started the business, I was working like 2, 3 in the morning. That's not healthy, right? So now I am becoming more disciplined when it comes to stopping work at a certain time because self care. I don't need to be up to 2, 3 in the morning staring at a blue screen. So I'm starting to realize like certain things are popping up where I'm like, oh, that's one of my affirmations. Or
Yeah.
when I'm interacting with someone, I say, I am love and I exude love and grace in all of my interactions. And so whenever I'm interacting with somebody, that kind of plays in the back of my mind. Like, how can I exude grace? How can I exude love in this interaction?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I learned.
That's
What
dope.
about you?
Uh, so I learned that it's okay to make mistakes.
Good
which sounds
one.
which sounds
Good
it sounds
one.
it's crazy because it sounds so like duh, it's okay to make mistakes, but that's not how you feel when you constantly beat yourself up. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have been having shitty classes for the past in my acting class for like the past 4 or 5 classes. I mean, like I'm not connecting with the stuff that I'm working on. Like I'm working all week for these things. I'm creating these different scenarios in my head, blah blah, all these different things to like really bring my emotional life out of me. And for some reason, I'm just not connecting. Something's not like I'm not getting that full emotional life, and the performance you can see in the performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been doing this thing, especially the last couple of classes, where I'll be pushing, and all of a sudden I won't get it. So then I'll just like completely tune out, and then I start like beating myself up and all feeling bad for myself and shit like that. And my teacher's been getting on me about that. My coach been getting on me about that. And one thing that she was saying to me is like, well, she sent me like this little meme that was basically saying a little meme. It's like this little quote that was basically like, it's all right, man. Like that's human to make mistakes. And I think far too often, a lot of people will beat themselves up over things like, oh, it wasn't perfect when I did it. Like that means I'm a failure. No, it means that you're human.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And no matter what you're doing, like at some point you will make mistakes. And that
Yeah.
is perfectly fine because out of those mistakes that become I mean, that's where you get the most room for growth. You know what I
Heck
mean?
yeah.
Because you see what you did wrong, you can go back to the drawing board and fix those mistakes. So that's
Heck
one
yeah.
thing that I'm trying to work on is like not beating myself up for not getting things right. You know what I mean? No matter how much preparation I did, it's okay. I still might make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've been trying to get out of, man. Like it's okay, Landon. It's okay. You good, man. It's okay.
That's a really good point. Do you think that you somewhat tie your self-worth into whether you fail or succeed?
100%.
Mm.
100%. It makes me feel like damn, especially because like not trying to toot my own horn, but I've always been like in that class too. Like I've always been
Toot
like
your horn.
the top dog. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
people, I just know people be like, oh, Landon's about to perform. You know what I'm saying? And so like when I go out there and I give a shitty performance, like it makes me feel like damn, like I'm not one living up to the standards that people have set for me, and then
Mm-hmm.
also live up to the standards I've set for myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I take pride in being prepared and in showing up and doing the work and like people being like, damn, that was dope. And me being
Yeah.
like, damn, that was dope. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when I don't get that, it just feels like, oh, you're not as good, or like you're not you're not a good actor. You should do you even want to act? Are you even you know what I'm saying? All the other
Mm-hmm.
bullshit that comes in my head. So
Mm-hmm. I think that also speaks to an important point um, that I've been trying to tell people and convince myself of too is how do you feel when you see somebody that you respect not get it and then you watch them get it? Does that make sense? Like
mm,
for me, it's dope to see people be really good at what they do. But when they are vulnerable and express like, "Oh, I struggled with this," or "I didn't get this," that's even more inspiring to me.
yeah,
It's like, "Oh my god, they're human too."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, I mean both sides to be. I mean, you're respected either way. You're already up there, whether you think people are like, maybe he's not that good. When they see that, it's like, damn, I could be like that. Like when I see you struggling, all I ever feel is like I struggle. But then I see you struggle and I'm like, oh, it's okay to struggle. Like I'll get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes me think about that podcast. We are clearing the shit out of our throats right now. That makes me But no, that makes me think. I know I had mentioned in the earlier episode about how Sarah Paulson,
Mm-hmm.
she was on the podcast off camera with Sam Jones, and she was saying like there would be a lot of times where she's just in her head and like she's like, oh, that wasn't good, that wasn't a good performance, and
Yep.
you know what I mean, like that. Seeing that type of stuff is like, oh, it's okay, like you know what I
Yeah.
mean, because she's Sarah Paulson,
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Right.
big A-list actress, and even she, you know what I mean, has these moments of vulnerability and like feeling less than. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
So
right,
it's
cool.
Powerful.
It is the power of vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go and jump right into it, man. Let's go ahead and jump right through it after you clear your throat. About
You know what's it's funny? Quick aside. I tell people now, like, I'm just letting you know I clear my throat a lot. So
Yo, it's been like that a lot though. Like this
yeah,
year, especially.
after I got sick. I think I had COVID, bro.
But you think
After
it's
I
like
got after I got sick is when it started. The cough went away, but the clearing of the throat never did.
but you know they be saying like that shit has like some lasting effects
Yeah.
on people and stuff like that. Do you think that might be it?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think
Yeah.
you're gonna be clearing your throat like that for the rest of your life?
I mean, I feel like I feel like if I honestly eat right and go vegan, that my body can correct itself. I feel like the body can heal itself from most anything, almost anything.
This is gonna get off subject, but dude, I kind of want to talk about like this. Be probably a later episode about eating habits.
Ooh,
Dude,
write it down, bro. Hold on, I'll write it down.
yeah,
We can put
I
it in our
think
next
that'll be
episode.
something good because man, I just think about how much artificial shit we put into our bodies, man,
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
regular. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like that's not normal. You know what I'm saying?
So we have all
Uh,
these abnormal side effects.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyways, let's not get too off subject. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So gonna slide right into this topic of communication.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you jumped in. I thought you had a story that says. Damn.
I did.
Oh, go
But
ahead.
then I was like, that's rude. You just cut him off.
Yeah, you did cut me off. But now go ahead, do your thing. Go ahead, because it's more important than
I
mine.
was it is actually it was me praising you.
Oh shit. Okay, go ahead, do your thing. I'm listening. Shit, let me shut up.
I wanted to because we didn't talk about it in the last episode. The last episode when Chadwick Boseman was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was Chadwick Boseman? It's been that long?
Ha-
No, last episode was athletes.
Oh
yeah, I know it wasn't
Oh
tripping.
my god. I'm losing count. We getting up there, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know. So I didn't mention it in the last episode, but I meant to. There was a moment in our episode with when we were discussing Chadwick Boseman when I started crying. And Landon, you handled that so well. I think that was the perfect example of creating space for somebody. Um, a lot of times what people do when someone is crying or someone is mourning or grieving or anything is, or even if they're just in pain, we rush to try to fix it. Like we want them to not feel that pain. But in doing so, we kind of hinder that grieving process or, just the process of experiencing those emotions.
Yeah.
Whereas you, instead of, it's okay, don't cry or saying anything like that, you encouraged me to keep going and that it was okay for me to cry. I cried and then, got it together and continued on. And that in itself is so powerful to be able to be vulnerable like that in front of somebody and them not judge you, them not rush you through your experience and just to sit there with you in it. That takes another level of maturity and emotional intelligence. And I mean, I think you did a tremendous job at it. Like I didn't feel awkward or uncomfortable. The only thing I felt was like, damn, I probably look ugly on camera. But I had that big ass vein in my head.
I got that shit right now. When I smile, I start laughing. It comes up.
Yeah, the big ass vein in my head. But aside from that, There was no discomfort or unease or anything like that. And I think that is a perfect example of creating space for somebody. I think you did a really good job at that.
I just want to say, first off, I'm happy you said that. Thank you. Like that means a lot. And secondly, I got it because one time that same thing happened, except the roles were reversed. When
Mm.
I forgot what I was mad about, but I was so hot and I called you and I'm cussing, going ham. And I just remember like usually people would be like, nah, it's cool, but don't worry about, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it try to like subside it or whatever. But you were like, it's all right. Like, and you just kept letting me just vent. And like the more I did it, the more I was just like, it calmed me down. It just allowed me to like express what I was feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was like, damn, like I don't even know. I think I might have told you I don't know, but that meant so much to me, man. I was like, damn, you really, like you said, created this space for me to just be what I was. You know what I'm saying? Be upset, be
Yeah.
I don't know. And that meant so much to me. And on the second thing, we just had a moment like this in class where it was kind of the same thing because you know we were exploring all these vulnerable moments and stuff like that. And someone else in my class was like, you could just see they were uncomfortable, so they were like making like little jokes and stuff like that, or trying to get out of it. And what my coach was saying is like, you're uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why a lot of times people try to like joke or like make them feel
Mm-hmm.
better is because they're uncomfortable exploring this vulnerable space or being in that.
Yep.
You know what
Yep.
I mean? So like, what can I do to get out of this moment so we're
Yep.
both back to quote unquote normal?
Yep. 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 That
You
is
know?
I think that's why a lot of people struggle with it too. Oh, and that reminds me of the one time. So there was a time where you were mad about something and I rushed to try to make you feel better and then had to go back and apologize. Like I realized that you were angry, and instead of just letting you be angry and express how you felt, I was like, well, you can do this, or you can do providing a whole bunch of solutions. A lot of us think that we're helping when we provide unsolicited advice.
Mm,
A lot of times that just makes people retreat because you're not really listening to me if as soon as I get done talking you got a solution.
yeah.
And that was one thing. I mean, it was as soon as I said it to you, I was like, yeah, I don't know if that was the best response to that. Like he's angry. He should be able to be angry without me feeling like I have to fix that. No, express your anger, and when you're ready, we can find some solutions. But right now, while you're angry, it's not the time.
Why do
Be
you think that
angry.
you rushed to that?
It's a coping mechanism, right? Growing up, anger was not a good emotion to express. And
Mm,
so, we want to get back to the good emotions, right? I'm not saying that anger is a bad emotion. I'm saying we perceived it as a bad
yep.
emotion. And so as soon as I sense anger, because I'm hypersensitive to these things, I'm like, oh, gotta figure out a way to make it light again, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's more like a knee jerk reaction where it's like, oh, somebody's angry, let me make them feel better. Like, no, a lot of times letting them process those emotions is a lot more helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, yeah. How do you think that people go about working on creating space for friends and family when we have these moments of like anger or frustration, like or these vulnerable moments?
I think it starts with yourself. I mean, I know I couldn't create space for anybody because I didn't know how to do it for myself, you know? And I actually didn't learn how to do it until I went to therapy. And it was never something we talked about. It was just something I observed in my therapist's behavior, where when I would be, I'd be crying about something or I'd be angry about something, and she'd sit there and she'd listen to me and ask me questions about, how I felt. And at most, if she ever gave feedback to me, it was, this is what you said, this is what you said, this is how I'm understanding it.
Mm,
But it was never like, this is how you should feel. And so I realized that to create space for somebody, you first have to be, um what's the word, when you're aware of your own emotions,
mm.
right, and your own triggers and your own things that you do to try to make people to try to cope with these uncomfortable emotions, because that's what they are for a lot of people. um yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that.
Yeah, yeah, you did. I'm wondering how because one thing I always recommend to people, and I always struggle with this, is therapy. Like, how do you go about recommending therapy for someone without making them feel like you're quote unquote calling them crazy because of stigma around therapy, especially like black people.
Yeah.
So that's my thing, is trying to navigate between that space of like, especially because I know a lot of times friends always be like, or people always be like, oh, I can just go to like such and such to talk about my problems. Like I don't really need therapy and stuff like that. But like such and such don't even got space. You know what I mean? They ain't even created space for themselves. So how can they take
Right.
your emotional trauma or your emotional baggage? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um, so that's the thing that I'm still trying to figure out, is how to like navigate that space of like,
Yeah.
because therapy helps, but how do you go about it if they aren't ready for therapy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because it's still something I struggle with. Um I will say again, I always say it worked, it helped me. It
Mm,
helped me because I think the stigma is people think, like you said, you're crazy if you go to therapy.
right.
So I will be the first to say, oh, I went. So if you're looking at me, you don't think I'm crazy. And it's like, okay, maybe, I mean, maybe you do think I'm crazy, but you can look and say, oh, this is somebody that went to it. I don't know if appreciate or respect the way you are, and I want to get to that point. I hear people say that a lot, so I'll say, look, I still deal with my own stuff. There's still a lot of stuff that triggers me, and I've had to tell people flat out, I suffer from anxiety, like really, really bad. And so I only have so much space I can create for people until it starts to mess with me negatively.
Right.
So I let people know, especially if I don't have the tools, like, hey, therapy helped me get the tools I needed to process certain emotions that I didn't know how to process. It could be helpful for you. It's something that we can explore together. I can help you, with the to find a therapist the way I did, and just give more insight to your own perspective.
Yeah.
Like we can't really force people to do stuff that they're not ready for, but a lot of times the fear is I'm not sure what other people will think. And a good way to tear down that is I went,
Yeah.
and I will tell anybody that I went, and I will continue to go because I'm still learning so much about me, and who I am now is leaps and bounds healthier than who I was a year or two ago, and it was worth it. So that's the best advice I could offer.
Yeah. I think people assume that like, just to go back to like the miscommunication aspect of it, is that they assume that because you're saying that that they should go to therapy, that you're calling them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think miscommunication is such a big thing,
Yeah,
um, when trying to communicate with people. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because we all come from different, you know what I mean, different backgrounds. So like we receive the same message differently. We can receive the same exact message differently.
yeah.
And I think there's so many different forms of like miscommunication. And I think I'll just give an example. So yesterday, I was talking to one of my friends, and I was upset because of class and everything, and so she had reached out and was like, basically like, hey, you know what I mean, like, I let's get some dinner, blah blah. And I was like, man, like just being short, you know what I mean, like I was just upset because of class. I didn't really want to be around anybody, and instead of communicating that I didn't want to be around anybody, I was just sending these short messages, assuming that she would get that. You know
Assuming
what I
that
mean?
she would assume.
Right, right. That
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to have company.
Yeah,
And so I think that's something a lot of people do, is assume that others understand what you're trying to say,
yeah.
instead of saying it clearly, or just being. I could have just been like, "Hey, I don't really want to. I don't want to be around anybody right now."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to like be rude or anything like that. Which there's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's a big thing. What's your take on that? On the whole thing of assumptions?
Oh, I used to be the queen of them. Oh, I mean, I still am. I had to correct myself. Um, yeah, I think some social media plays a huge role in the way that we communicate now, and that it can cause us to make assumptions that aren't always true. I like to put it like this: our brains are always taking in information and forming assumptions. So we by nature assume because
Right.
that's how people survive. I have
Yeah.
to assume, if I cross the road and I don't look both ways, that I could potentially get.
Hmm.
So I think what it is when we're where the miscommunication lies is we're making those assumptions based off a inadequate amount of information, right? Um, you assumed that she had enough information to make the assumption that you didn't want company,
Right.
whereas she didn't, and then vice versa for her. So I think what it boils down to managing that miscommunication is making sure that you provided enough evidence, or not evidence, but enough information for people to make better decisions.
Right.
Right. And one way to do that is to cut through all the clutter and tell them like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Like straight out.
Yeah.
Did I explain that well?
100%. That was really good.
Okay.
That was really good. Dude.
Hold on.
What?
There's this Office episode where Michael Scott is like, sometimes I start talking and I don't know where it's gonna go. Sometimes that's how I feel. I'm like, did that make sense?
No, it makes sense.
Okay.
It makes sense. I think another thing too that some people do, so some people do like the assumptions and stuff, and some people just don't communicate at all. For example, when I was with my ex-girlfriend,
Yeah.
I would get upset over something. You ever just be sitting in the car and you just start getting upset for no reason, and
Yeah.
you don't even know, and so now you just quiet, and it's like,
What's wrong
what the
with
fuck?
you?
What's wrong with you? And I'm like, like, what is wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? But like, instead of just saying like, I don't know what just happened, I randomly just got upset and now I'm in a bad mood. I just don't say nothing, and now
Nothing.
that person is sitting there and they're just running shit through their head. Like, did I do something? Like, were they mad about something I did earlier? Like, and now you know what I mean. Now you got them second guessing stuff, and now
Yep.
they all
Yep.
instead of just communicating. I was just like, no, she should understand. I'm upset over absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
What?
I'm sorry, come again. That is an interesting thing, and I think it happens a lot with Black people because of the way we're raised. A lot of us are raised as children to be seen and not heard,
Mm-hmm.
or that our opinions, our voice, if I'm talking back, that means I'm being disrespectful.
Yeah.
So as a result, what do we naturally do in times of conflict? We shut down.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't taught how to process emotions during conflict. We were taught to shut down.
I don't think we were allowed to.
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Which I think is a coping mechanism passed down through
Right.
generations.
Right.
Yeah. And so now we get in relationships where you have to communicate and you can't. And then another layer to that is when um, you've been trained basically to shut down in conflict, things will happen and you won't even know why you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
I like you said, you would randomly get mad and it's like, what's wrong? I don't know. I'll be in relationships and it's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. You don't know. I dead ass don't know. Like, I know I feel something in my chest, but I don't know what that feeling is.
Right.
And it wouldn't, me and my therapist were talking about it, is your brain is in survival mode. So when we're younger and we're taught, conflict, shut down, don't say anything, that's a coping mechanism, survival mode. You don't get out of that until the brain has basically said, okay, coast is clear, which could be some days later.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Especially if you've never been taught how to process it during the conflict. So that what would happen is we get into some conflict. I wouldn't say anything, would shut down. And then some days later, finally would start feeling like, oh, this is what it was. This is what it was. Did you ever feel like that? Did that ever happen with you?
I kind of just be like, okay, that's done.
Oh, so you wouldn't address it?
Wouldn't address it at all.
Okay, and that's another thing too with miscommunication is when we don't ever communicate. That buildup can lead to resentment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had
Did you
that.
feel resentment?
Yes. Yes. And then actually, sometimes I would, but it would be like sometimes weeks later, or like it would take into the next confrontation to be like, I just blow up, and I'm like, oh, that's why, because that was bothering me.
Yeah.
But that's something that I still struggle with today. Is like, I got some friends that do things that kind of bothers me. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And so for the most part, I'm good with it. But there's sometimes where I just completely stay quiet, and it
Mm-hmm.
just builds and it builds and it
Mm-hmm.
builds and it builds, and then all of a sudden, every time I look at this person, I'm like,
Human.
just mad for no reason. They say anything, yo, how your day going? I'm like, shut up. Like, why am I so? And what I've realized is when you, it sucks, you know what I'm saying? But when you have these uncomfortable talks about like, yeah, I really don't like when you do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It really bothers me. When you start, like when you just let that out, it's so like, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm not mad at you anymore because now you know. Now, if
Yeah.
that friend goes and continues to do that thing that you said bothers you,
Yeah.
knowing that you said it bothers you,
Now
that's
you see we
that's a
have a
whole
problem.
different talk. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
a
have
whole
a
different
problem.
talk.
Yeah. And
Uh,
what would be like your biggest fear? And maybe don't identify it as a fear, but what would be your biggest, what would hold you back from expressing what they were doing
I didn't
that
want to
bothers you?
confrontation.
Mm,
I hate conflict.
mm-hmm.
You know
Oh,
what I
me
mean?
too.
So like a lot of times, like my brain is like, just don't say nothing, and it'll just go away.
Mm,
It doesn't go away. If someone, like, let's say I dribble the basketball in the house every morning at 8 o'clock, and you got work at, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. You got something, but you ain't waking up to about 10 o'clock. But
mm-hmm.
every morning I'm boom, 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 dribbling the ball in the house. You know what I'm saying? And it's bothering the shit out of you. The first day, that's annoying. Second day, boom, boom, boom. By the second week, if you don't say nothing, you ready to fight me.
I'm coming up there ready to crack skulls.
And then, you know what I'm saying? And then throughout the day, we walking through the house. I'm smiling. Hey, what up? How you doing? You mad because like
Yeah.
this same thing that I keep doing that's bothering you, that I keep doing, this same scab I keep poking at.
It's like, you
You
should
know,
know.
yeah. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
you should know that's rude to be dribbling a basketball at 8 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's rude. Nobody said it was rude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
if
there
and
would.
if you would just communicate that, then I'm like, oh, my bad. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wake up on the third week and I'm boom, 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 now I'm just being rude.
Right.
You know.
Now you I was say now you fucking with me. Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing is setting boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, because we don't like conflict, we don't like confrontation. Most people don't like. If you are, you're probably crazy. But you know what I'm
Some
saying?
people
Like,
live for that.
yeah, I'm ready to fight, nigga. I'm ready to fight. Look, wake up. Who can I piss off today? But I think that's the reason why a lot of people struggle with setting boundaries is because they're afraid of that confrontation. They don't want conflict. They don't want a person to be upset by you saying like, "Hey, I don't like when you do this," or like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
can't do this right now."
Mhm.
So as opposed to saying that and having that moment of that uncomfortable moment, they'll just avoid it altogether
Yeah. Yeah.
because they think it'll go away.
Yeah. I'm the queen of avoiding stuff. I'm trying to get
Really?
better at it. Oh yeah. What? Somebody say text me out something I don't really want to address. It might be a couple days.
Do you scroll down and look at it like instead of opening, or do you have your see? Because I got my read receipts on, so I just scroll down, look at it, and then just scroll back up.
Oh yeah, no, I took them read receipts off. That give me anxiety. If people really know how often I see the message, but then just forget to respond, oh, they will be really mad. Yeah,
Mm.
you probably the only person I respond to like as soon as I get the message. Everybody else, you get it when you get it, babe. But yeah, setting boundaries is, I think it's necessary to have a healthy, honestly, to be happy.
Yeah,
Honestly, I was gonna say like healthy relationships, but to be happy, I realized myself that a lot of the reason why I felt so drained and exhausted and just like hopeless last year is because I had terrible boundaries. I mean, somebody needed something at the drop of a dime. I was dropping everything, uprooting my life,
yeah,
and it's for people that I care about. So, and that's the hard part about setting boundaries. But um yeah, and when we have grown up where we've basically again been trained to put our own needs to the side for somebody else's, it feels like we're abandoning them,
yeah,
you know? Um, and that's one thing that I am reframing in therapy is that setting boundaries is not me abandoning someone, it's me putting my needs first because I can't show up for you if I've not shown up for myself,
Mm,
you know. Um, but it's hard and it doesn't feel good at first. And just because you're setting a boundary and it's healthy for you doesn't mean the person on the other end is going to perceive it in that way,
right.
especially when they've gotten used to you being there at the drop of a dime.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's something that people have to work on as the friend.
Mm.
When someone sets a boundary with you, that's not them saying like, "Yo, fuck you." You
Right.
know what I mean? That's them setting a boundary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when people have set boundaries with me, I'll be like, "Damn!" Like,
What?
you know what I mean? But I gotta take it back. Like, why did I get defensive over that? Like, what bothered me about that? You know what I'm saying? Why
Yes.
was I so bothered by them saying I can't be that right now?
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Do you
Um,
know what it is? Like, is it usually the same thing or does it vary
it
when
varies.
somebody,
I
it
think it's
varies?
a case by case thing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't know. It really just depends.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the more, how do I put this? When you, I feel like people that lack boundaries are afraid of being abandoned.
Hmm.
That's what I feel like it stems from is I know what it feels like to not have anybody or feel like, I'm neglected. I don't want anybody else to feel like that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So it's like if I stay home because I'm not really feeling well and I don't go out with you or do whatever you want to do, I feel like I'm abandoning you,
Hmm.
you know? And that's I think that's something that we struggle with because it came from childhood,
Yeah.
is that feeling of people not wanting us, you know?
I think another thing. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was clearing my throat.
Oh, I thought you had another point you was about to make. Now, another thing with setting boundaries is not just in relationships, but it's also setting boundaries for yourself with things like media. For
Mm.
example,
Oh yes.
um, I used to watch every single video I saw of a black man being killed.
Whew.
Every single one that came across my timeline, I
Whew.
would watch, and then I'd wonder, like, why am I in this? Like, I would just be so down. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I'd be angry. I'd be like ready to cry, and it's like all these different things. And it's because when you watch the video, sometimes you'll be like, you'll watch it, and you'll scroll to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Keep going about your day. That's not normal
Yeah.
to watch death. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it affects you right then on spot or like a week down, like it's gonna affect you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So what I've realized is I can't do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's sometimes, you know what I mean, I do, but I can't watch. It's going to affect me at some
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I think just understanding and learning those boundaries and then setting it like literally I'll see something, I'll scroll right past it quick. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Yep.
I'll read the caption or something, but I can't
Yep.
watch every single video I see now that's
Yeah.
about a black man being murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I don't. I do not watch death anymore. There was one video, I can't remember what it was, but I remember the person's face. And that's like I don't ever want to it's not normal.
Right.
It's not normal. And so anytime, as soon as I see, because I still the George Floyd video still surfaces from time to time. I'm not into that. I'm not into watching the video. I'm not into art that recreates the exact. I'm not into any of that. That's traumatic.
Yeah.
That's traumatic. And I think with social media, it's it's so normal to us now. We forget that seeing somebody die and be murdered is traumatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, because like you said, those effects, we don't always recognize them at first, but they catch up to us.
Yeah.
They catch up
It,
to us.
it blows my mind. It's getting off a little off subject, but how we've normalized that shit, bruh. We've literally normalized murder. We've
Yeah.
normalized death
Yeah.
and viewing death.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So much to the point I've seen videos of people recording and they'll be like, "Oh, they don't kill that man." You know what I'm saying?
But
Like with little to no reaction, and it's like,
desensitized.
yes, we have completely desensitized ourselves to shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal.
Yeah, it's not. And that's a dangerous thing. Oh, well, I thought you was about to start crying. You said,
No, I had to clear my
Like,
throat.
give me a minute. I think that is one thing too that I start talking. I realize what I do.
what you do? What
When
you
I'm
do?
trying to gather my thoughts, I start talking slower. Hey, y'all hurry up.
Come on now, we on. We on now. God damn it. You need a
But
moment, you good.
I'm good. I'm good. That was enough time. Everybody's here.
Alright.
I was gonna say one thing that I learned is that when you're in trauma, your body, your mind, all of that adapts to it so that it's normal because your brain can't function somewhere where it's not it can't predict what might happen.
Mm,
So that's what the whole desensitization is that your mind has become comfortable with the surroundings and can predict what happens. Doesn't mean it's healthy for you. And you don't realize that you become desensitized or that trauma is normal to you until you get out of it. And you'll notice how you react to your a different environment that you were desensitized to the trauma. One thing is I didn't realize how bad I suffer from anxiety until I got out of situations that caused me that were high stress.
mm,
Then once you get out of it and something is presented to you that's similar, it's like, holy shit, I used to live in that and be
yeah.
okay in that. You know what I'm saying? So once you get out of it, and I think that's what social media is, we're so deep in it. I I don't know if we'll ever really get out of the whole seeing somebody murdered and it just being normal
Yeah.
until we get out of and realize like this is not normal, which is why self-care is so huge.
Another thing, going back to the social media thing and pulling herself out of it, dude. You know what's crazy? Even when quarantine first started and I was doing the lives, I used to look at the numbers all the time, like how many people on live, how many people on my live. Like I was so obsessed with this shit. I was DJing yesterday and someone was like, this comment, someone was like, "Oh, you're famous and you only got like 8 people in here," and I'm like, why does that matter? You know what I mean? It blows my mind how caught up people are in social media in numbers and being liked and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? All
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And then I go back and look at some of the stuff I was like posting or like doing, like even the early vines when I was doing the chicken, like just the stereotypical black shit. And I'm like, I was doing all this stuff, literally like selling my soul, doing all this stuff because I was getting attention. I was getting likes. I was getting like, dude. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people get caught up in that stuff and you don't see it until like, I think that's why when people start getting older, they start like changing their content to like kind of fit more their align with who they are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like I'm like the middle child. Shout out to Nico. But like, nah, nah. I'm like I'm getting to this point now where and I try to tell people without sounding like an old head when I'm talking to like other influencers, like younger ones. Like you know what I mean? Hey, I always say like, yeah, man, just do what makes you happy. Like the people will gravitate towards you. There's literally a niche for every single type of person.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Yes.
try to be like this person. Literally be
Like
yourself. There is
you.
someone out there that is looking for you.
Yep. Yep. That's so
Um,
true.
and
That
that's
is
what I
so true.
realized, man. I'm like, I can if I want to change right now and start dancing or singing, there's someone out there that wants to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So do it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And that's not just influencers, but people in general. So yeah,
Yeah.
just want
That
to say that.
fear holds so many people back, you know.
Hmm.
I think that's a lot of the reason I saw some like tweet or something and it was saying the reason why a lot of people are afraid to start is they don't want people to see them at the bottom, basically.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
like they don't want to be putting out all this content and nobody's liking it, nobody's sharing it, right? But
Hmm.
you have to start somewhere,
Right.
and if you start with the stuff that you love, then I mean, you care. I think we're always going to care to an extent, but it's not about it's not solely about the people that that are liking or showing attention, whatever. It's you're doing it because you genuinely enjoy it and you
Yeah.
genuinely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm like trying to press more is do what you love, do what you love, do what you love. There are billions of people in the world, and social media, internet has made it easier to find them. They will find you, but you have to put the content out first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big facts. How much time we got left?
Dude, we got 14 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Because
I've
I
been
didn't want to.
watching it.
Okay, I didn't want to jump into like a new topic, and we was like short on time or nothing like that.
Oh no, we're good.
But just to circle back around into excuse me, the whole thing about boundaries is, what do you do once you cross over a boundary? Like, how do you recover from crossing a boundary?
Um, I think there's two sides of it because there's boundaries that are crossed and people don't make you aware of them, and then there's boundaries that are crossed and they do make you aware of them. So when people do make you aware of them, I think the most important thing is to separate your ego from it, because a lot of times people will tell you, "Hey, I didn't like that you did this," and then we get defensive, and in getting defensive, now we've just severed a opportunity to like build and to bond from that moment. Maybe it's because like you and me, we don't like conflict. But when somebody tells you that you've crossed a boundary, separate your ego, ask questions to understand if you don't understand what you did wrong, and then make a plan to honor that boundary in the future and to check in with them as well. Like, okay, I realized this is what I did, this is what I'm going to do in the future, and then from that point on check in about, hey, how are you feeling, how is whatever.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
what are you gonna say?
Nothing. I have absolutely nothing to say.
Are you
I'm
sure?
I'm dead ass. I literally am just blank. But I also nah. I had a point. This is why I'm saying I was blank, because I had a point that I wanted to make and it just went away. So I was like, what you want to say? I'm like, heart start beating. Damn, what was I about to say?
Setting boundaries, crossing boundaries, checking in
Crossing
with people,
boundaries.
being conflict, ego, putting your ego to the side.
Dude, I am so blank right now, and I cannot believe, like, it's not even.
That's gone.
Yeah,
Ship sailed.
that motherfucker done ran
No,
off.
he gone,
Ran
boss.
off on the floor. And
He
damn,
gone,
it was
boss.
something about boundaries, man, and something about. Oh my god! Please start talking so I can just like play this off.
Shut the fuck up, cause nobody.
Oh man.
uh, it is what it is. Well, I'll go to the other point that I was saying. If you I don't really know how to address this one when you cross a boundary and the person doesn't tell you.
Mm.
Aside from ask questions, if you notice that there's been a shift in energy, you can usually
Yeah,
tell.
you can instantly.
Shift in energy, ask questions. And I think one thing you noted a couple episodes ago is that when you bring up your own vulnerability, when you're vulnerable, it opens the floor for other people to be vulnerable.
Mm.
So yeah, but crossing boundaries and the person not notifying you when you've done it, that can kind of be tricky sometimes, because you don't want to get to the point where you're like, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? If they don't
Right.
want to talk about it. But I would say letting them know, like, hey, if I did anything that upsets you, please let me know. I'm here to listen, and then going on with it. There's only so many times you can ask.
I think that's the hard part too, man. Sometimes people don't ever get to that place of being comfortable enough to tell you that
Yeah.
that they're upset or something like that. Like, no matter how many times you like ask or like create the space for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just wonder, what do you do um at that point? Like, you can just feel the constant shift, and there's a constant shift in energy, like when they're around or like you're talking to them and stuff like that, and that they're bothered or something. Like, what do you just try to have a sit down and talk to them, or you know what I mean? Like, what is the solution there?
I would say figure out which way do they communicate the best. Like, I know one
Mm,
thing me and my ex did, because again, we get in conflict and I wouldn't say anything unless I was piping mad and just didn't care, which I don't want to move through conflict when I'm at that point, because that's
yeah.
like the point of no return. I'll say anything,
Right. Yeah.
So one thing that we would do is I would write letters to him, as I would write like a 10-page letter.
Lord, who want to read that? You got that man reading books, Judy Bloom books.
I'm kidding. I only wrote one 10-page letter, and he really pissed me off. Rightfully.
Damn. You think he
Yeah.
ever read it?
Oh, I know he did.
The whole
I
thing?
know he did. Yeah, I know he did. Because
Okay.
each page was something different. and we addressed
Damn.
all of them. Oh yeah, he's bugging over dog.
Addressed it like you brought it up and he was following the lead, or like addressed it like he was like, well, in page 7, you said that you didn't like when I blah 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
good.
So what we would do is, something was bothering me, and I would write. Most of the time, it would only be like 1 or 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give it to him and go in the other room, and he would write it. And sometimes he would come out and he'd ask me about it, or sometimes he'd write me a note, hand it to me. I'd go in the other room and I'd read it. And then once we felt comfortable enough, we would talk about it. But that's just something, because I realized in conflict, what do? My brain stops working damn near. I don't even remember like what the conversations would be about, because trauma response, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this was one way where I could communicate, because the brain was still working, and that we could really talk about the things that were bothering both of us in that space. So that's one thing I can recommend, is like, if you're not a talker during conflict, if you shut down, writing it out is very helpful.
Yeah.
People say texting can go either way, because it's very easy to miscommunicate through text.
Hell
But
yeah.
I think if you guys are in the same area, same environment, then it could potentially work. Potentially. But yeah.
I'm gonna try that, man. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
more of a text guy. I just know the reason I was asking is because I know when I get these long ass messages. Well, I think this might be an effect of everything being so on demand and like instant kind of
Yeah.
gratification, or like instant results. Like you can Google search anything. A lot of times when I get long text, I'll skim through that bitch.
I know. Because I say you ain't even read that.
Yeah, and then like I literally have to like, okay, like I'll skim through it, and like after about the fifth skim, I'll be like, okay, I gotta read this whole thing. So then I'll like go through. Even girl, I do that with article, like I do that with everything,
A lot of people
every,
do.
and then even with video, I'll watch a how-to tutorial. I'm skipping through different parts. Like, oh, I missed it. Let me go back. And I like, dude, it's just so hard to like, have to read
Read
the
it.
whole thing.
Spend time. Might be a new
um,
business idea.
Honestly, it might. Oh, but
Don't they have
I was.
apps that read it?
Do they? Probably.
They have to, because that would classify like people that can't,
Yeah.
visually impaired. They should be able to hear it too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I was bringing all that up to like make the point of like with communication as well, is that people, instead of like doing like the groundwork, the foundation work, and like the uncomfortable shit, they like,
Oh
oh, let's
yes.
just get to the easy part. Let's make this quick. Let's make a joke to get out
Mhm.
of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's not the fun part of the relationship, but I think it's the meaningful part, and that's when the bonds really get built. Is
yeah,
in those moments. Honestly. Um. Yeah, that's the part social media doesn't really want to talk about.
ever. Because
Yeah,
nobody
but
wants to see that.
right.
You know.
Yeah, don't nobody want to see that. We want to see the good stuff. We want to
Yeah.
see the happy stuff, but not the
Yeah.
stuff that got to that point. Communication is vital for a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
It is. You can't. I forgot what I was reading, but that was like one of the. It was in like the top 2 reasons, top 2 3 reasons why relationships fail is just miscommunication.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking one thing, you thinking the other, and neither of us is really getting to the bottom of it or working as a team.
Yeah. I wonder. Oh, go ahead. Go
Go
ahead. I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. Go
No,
ahead.
no,
Go
no,
ahead. Go
no,
ahead. Go
no, no. You
ahead.
took that was a deep ass breath. Go ahead. Do your thing. Do your thing. That was a deep breath. Please say your point.
Oh, one thing that the John Gottman Institute, really, really good. Or it's the Gottman Institute, because it's him and his wife. They do like research on couples and then the way that they communicate. Really, really good stuff. One thing that they said, a phrase that can change.
Go. I'm sorry. I thought someone playing music.
Oh, you're good. A phrase that can change like the whole dynamics of the argument is to say, we're on the same team. How can we come to a solution?
Mm.
And when you're arguing with somebody, you're trying to get your point. Like, listen, we're on the same team. I want us to come to a solution for both of us, not just me. So it's no longer about one person winning the other, but about finding a common ground.
Can you
What
hear
you
that
get?
shit?
No, that's why
Okay,
I'm
I'm
looking at
sorry.
you like, what are you doing?
because I got a sign on my door that says we're recording. So
Oh,
for
you got
someone
one
playing
up?
music right now, it is. I'm sorry, my bad. Okay, this irritates me.
Communication.
The thing is, we talked about this.
I know. I heard you before the show last time.
Yeah. So
Boundaries.
yeah, I'm about to set
Boundaries
my
crossed.
foot up somebody. No, just kidding. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm getting bothered.
Okay. Do you feel
um,
disrespected?
I do. I do. Um,
Is the music loud?
I can hear it through my headphones. So
Oh, that is loud.
that's. I don't know if you can hear it or not. That's why I was asking.
No, I can't hear it at
Um,
all.
but the fact that I can hear it through my headphones right now is what's bothering me. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Um, I think this is a very, very teachable moment right now.
I think so.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like right now, I'm getting really bothered. Like, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
because like when I get upset about something, and I constantly keep like thinking about that thing. Like, oh, but I said that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I said that, and he's really doing it. Like, is he really doing it? He's really doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of like I'll just that should just build, and then I'll go out there, and then a lot of times I'll just say how I'm feeling instead of like really taking a second and like, okay. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Be reasonable with this shit. And this is why this is one thing that I respected about Coach King, who was my high school basketball coach. He had this rule that if something happened during the game and it really bothered you, you had to wait 24 hours before you could communicate with him about it. Because I think a lot of times people get upset, and I don't really believe in like the whole zodiac sign stuff. But one of the things about Aries is that like we're super impulsive, and so which I find myself to be. And so, like a lot of times when I'm bothered or upset, I will act instantly. And sometimes that instant is not the right thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I assume that it's like how do I know that's not an alarm going off right now and he's just asleep or some shit? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like I just
Mm-hmm.
assume that he just plays the music in there, but I said, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact circumstances.
Yes.
So instead of making that assumption and going off of that, like really go over there, figure out what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then after I make my assessment, then act.
Yep.
So
Beautiful.
yeah,
Oh,
I just talked
that's
myself out of being upset.
But no, I think that's so important is because a lot of people, myself included, is something that happened will automatically jump to, oh, this is what happened. And stop, get more information. Well, stop, cool down first, like you did, and then get more information, then make a decision. We
Yeah,
save ourselves so much trouble, stress, energy, and relationships, friendships, if we can do that.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
it's true.
awesome. How you?
Truth,
I,
man.
see, I can see you kind of calming down. You getting mad? Your lip was twitching.
Shut your ass up, man.
I
Shut
be
up.
mad.
Hey, man, let's close it out, man. Damn, I know it's been 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're at 59 right now.
Okay, cool. All right, then. That was a good show, man.
It was
That
good,
was
really
really
good,
good.
dude.
So hopefully, people take a message or two away. I mean, I took a message out of this, and we talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, just to reiterate on that book that you said, can you just say that one more time? What it's called?
So it's called. Do you see it or is it backwards?
No, I see it. Yeah, I see it,
Okay,
right?
it's backwards to me. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and this book could be worth $1 million to you. Again, it barely talks about money, but everything in this book, I mean, it's more so about having a healthy life that you enjoy. Money is the byproduct
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna get that thing too. Actually, I'm about to get on Audible.
Yeah, it's good.
Appreciate that, man. Well, as always, man, thank you all so much for tuning in once again, man. Please, if you have a chance, share it. Leave a review. We appreciate everything that y'all do for us.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can keep providing this content because it seems like people are receiving it well.
Yeah. Oh, quick shout out right quick. How many downloads we're at? Y'all, we are at 569 downloads. We're not even halfway through. Well, actually we are. But the point is we're halfway through and we're only 30 downloads from beating our whole the entire downloads for the month of August. So killing it, y'all. Appreciate it. We gonna keep it coming.
Yeah, man. We are man, it's going great. It's going great. We actually just got another review.
Oh wow.
So it says This is the most authentic podcast I have ever had the pleasure of listening to. Landon and Gabby are so intelligent and outspoken, always honestly speaking their minds. Yet they're also not afraid to be emotionally vulnerable with us who are listening, and that's truly beautiful. I feel like I'm right there with them during the conversations, and while some topics can get difficult and painful to discuss in here, they need to be brought up. So thank you guys for doing that and for being so open. Y'all are an inspiration. Peace.
Thank you so much. Oh.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful.
That is. Thank you guys so much. Like, we really, I mean, it keeps us going.
It really
You
does.
see stuff like that, I'm like, dang, I love it.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna lie, some days I'd be like, we gotta record the fucking podcast today.
Yeah, when you be like, let's record tomorrow, I'll be like,
Yeah. Yo, I really be like, I really don't feel like shooting this today. Let's just do it tomorrow.
yeah. And I'll be like, thank God.
If you ever feel like that too, or you can just let me, like I say, we can shoot this mug on Thursday.
Every
You
single
want to.
time you say, dude, I'm tired, I'll be like, thank God. Like, every single time, bro. Every single time. I'll be like, thank God, boy.
Man.
Today ain't the day. It wasn't going to be a good one if we did it today. Forget shit. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, once again, thank y'all for tuning in for another episode of Southern Hospitality, where we talk about the Black millennial experience in America. I'm your co-host, Landon Moss.
I'm Gabby Mize.
And we are out.
Good shit, dude.
Good shit.